What's your question?
Yes, sir. Dr. Long, my question was looking at the complexity toolkit and what you just talked about. How do you leverage AI and utilizing the agent when that major is now the human in the loop that's looking for exceptional information to provide the right stuff at the right time, right place, right quantity, and give you the readiness that you're looking
So
for?
there's about an hour-long answer to that one. I'm going to give you the short answer.
Yes, short answer.
What I need is the relationship between the human and the AI, the human-AI relationship, HARE. I need that to be an operating system. I need the AI to be my staff, and I need to be the commander so that I always retain responsibility, authority, direction, and values and decision-making. And I got to be able to give good, coherent command guidance to the staff so that they can do the due diligence and perform to professional standards. So that means I need to prevent hallucination by having a well-structured AI that has guardrails and safety embedded and procedural checkpoints to make sure that it is still on task, which means I have to train that in all the foundational principles and procedures, and I have to build a process that builds, like MDMP, that has quality control checkpoints along the way to make sure that it's still on task. And I have to load it with the right reference material. I have to make sure that I have framed this thing correctly. Now, I might use an AI to help me take a look at uncertainty and start nominating ways in which I might frame the problem, and then use my judgment to pick one, and then use AI to help me build out a solution process that looks like research, but with checkpoints, and then I'm now acting like the research committee while the AI is doing the heavy lifting. So if we use the 80-20 rule, we might say that 20% of the human's effort is to clearly communicate the requirement to the AI, and that 20% of the AI's effort is to make sure that it clearly understands what it is that you want before it starts working. And then about 80% of the AI's work is in doing the thing that you just told it to do rapidly, iteratively, due diligence, technical standards, and about 80% of the human's responsibility is to check that work as you go to make sure that it's not hallucinating. Instead of being just captured by a beautiful AI and doing whatever it says, you have to be an active agent in bringing quality control to supervise that work in the same way that you supervise your subordinates. So the 80-20 rule really is a divide and conquer and shows responsibilities and roles and functions. So to answer your specific question, what I got to do is design an AI that allows me to have trust and confidence in it, just like I would with any staff. And so in the future, hey, guess what? When you're in a command position or you're a staff leader, you're going to have staff working for you. Imagine that they are a black box. You have to train that black box, and inside that black box, you're going to have humans with their own AIs, and a bunch of them. So you got to make sure that they understand the responsibility that while they're doing staff work for you, that they are retaining the authority and responsibility of the technical AI that they're using, in the same way that you have to be responsive and responsible for your human AI relationship, because all your staff in the future is going to be a composite of humans and AIs working together. That doesn't just happen by magic. If you don't know what's going on, then it looks like magic. So you actually have to be competent in the design of human AI systems that will ensure that we are properly workloading the AI and checking its quality, and that you are being very clear about the requirement and making sure that it understands the output that's required so that it can design a process to do that with your guidance. And then you can spend your time with the quality control checkpoints. If you do that, you might find yourself in a position where you might have 3 or 4 projects, each with its own technical AI that you're workloading, and you're just trooping the line and checking in periodically as they're doing work. it turns out that they can do that work faster than you can supervise anyway. So it's always the speed of the human to be able to supervise that is the limiting factor on how much you can produce with the human and the AI. Because it could take this thing and build a better briefing than it took me an hour to tell you this. It could produce that in about 15 seconds from just the original diagram that I drew and a few words of guidance. It would make much cleaner and clearer diagrams and so forth. But I have to have that in my head so that when I give guidance to it on what I want it to produce, it meets my specification. If you don't do that work up front by being very clear about the requirement, then whatever it brings into you is going to be complete, persuasive, and confident, and you'll just want to say, well, I'll just do what it says. And now you have conceded the responsibility and the authority to the guy, and you have become a dummy signature on somebody else's process, and you have abdicated responsibility, and that is a failure.
Yes.
That's the failure mode. So the rule number one in our book on the 100 maxims for success, how to not use AI incorrectly. It identifies 100 failure modes, 100 ways you can do it wrong. The very first one that it says, don't ever make this mistake. Retain responsibility as the commander for your AI staff. Never relinquish that. The AI is much like our wonderful second lieutenants. Confident, eager, optimistic, often wrong, never in doubt. So that's not an indictment of lieutenants. That's just what they know. They haven't been trained yet. So you don't, a second lieutenant made a mistake, so get rid of him. No, you are misusing that precious asset. Oh, the AI hallucinated. The AI didn't make a mistake. You were imprecise and unclear in what you require.
Yes, you're
So you have to assume it's going to be wrong, and you have to have systems in place that will challenge that in a dialectic of thesis and antithesis before you get to a synthesis. So you have to be an action verb in this dialectic between what the AI says and what you want. You must be exercising maximum critical thinking while it is apparently creative and being systematic and iterating fast. It turns out that critical thinking function is absolutely important when it comes to the routine supervision of AI. So the reason we have critical thinking in the complexity toolkit is to preserve that grounded experiential responsibility for the mission. The AI is not a person. It does not have an embodied existence that it is using to reflect on. It is a probability machine predicting the next best word to satisfy the requirement. It is not comparing that to its lived, grounded experience. Although it sounds like it, it isn't. So you must preserve that critical thinking function in order to work long-term in the human-AI relationship. That's how you have to work with your staff. That's not something you just pick up once in a while and just, well, I don't know what to do, so I'll give it to the AI while I'm busy on this other thing. No, it has to be integrated into your workflow, your identity, be supported by values, and have a governing framework to ensure that you are not violating those maxims.
Yeah, that's good.
So zero trust, expect it to be wrong and challenge it and be critical. Use evidence that is validated to verify, use an independent audit of it. I use two different AIs. One AI to do the work that I want, and it captures me with its, and then I use an independent AI that was not part of the solution to evaluate it objectively to look for errors.
Yeah.
And that way I'm using an extra set of eyes that's not been captured by the constant back and forth between me and the AI. If I am working with the AI and I just get tired and I run out of ideas and I accept its final solution, that's when I stop thinking. I need an independent AI to be able to observe the whole thing and say, hey, did I do my job as the human to question that thing, or did I just get captured? And it can check to see how I was typing and the phrases that I used. Was I retaining independence of thought, or had I been absorbed into the Borg? Was I captured
Yeah.
The problem is that as you tune your AI and train it and you get better at it, the more often it does exactly what you need, and now you start getting comfortable and confident. And now instead of an adversarial challenge relationship, you have a little partnered friendly relationship because we anthropomorphize that. And now you and the AI have been captured. It knows what you want. It gives you what you think you need. And now that both of you have been captured in your own mutual orbit, and I need an independent auditing to come in and watch that process. The better I get at the day-to-day tactics of it, the more I need the independent audit to preserve independence of thought. So as I think about the structure of that, I actually need something like me and my AI working routinely, but I need that third
independent
AI out here to observe and report. That's like our government. I'm the executive branch. It is the legislative branch handling solutions all the time, every day. And then
judicial.
I'm the Supreme Court that can make sure that I'm still in alignment with principles, values, identity, and due process.
That's good.
So,
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Long.